Nope.
We're already up.
Serious. You guys record already?
Yep.
Wow. Thank you, Ethan. Nice. All right. You got it on? Yeah. All right. That's all right. That's all right. We're doing a quick change. Live and direct. Bringing it to you. Ethan set me up. It's all right. How you all doing tonight?
Doing really good.
That is good. That is good. Today, actually, obviously, I'm Gary Gant here with Ethan Merriweather and our frequent guest of the show, Brother James Cole. Thank you for being out here with us today for another episode of Let Your Words Count.
Glad to be here.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Very good. Very good. Good to have the microphone on.
Yep.
All right. Ethan, what episode are we on today?
It's 46.
46. 46 episodes strong. You brothers doing all right? Anything new?
Life is as it is.
Keep going.
Just doing side hustles. Just trying to maintain, and it seems like the cost of living is getting getting higher, but my pay is staying the same.
That is the name of the game.
Yeah. But out of all that, I'm still thankful to be, able to talk to our audience and you guys. Every week we missed last week.
Mm-hmm.
And every time we miss these episodes, I feel like a part of me missing, because I really enjoy the interaction and commentary from the audience and different things like that.
For sure.
I'm starting to see more and more people engaging with the conversations as well. That's a good thing. Mm-hmm. At least we're stirring something up, whether it's positive or negative.
Looks like it's still positive so far, so we keep that going.
So yeah. Go ahead, G.
Awesome.
Yeah,
No, man, it's just been everything's been going good, man. Been keeping busy. A couple different projects going on, a lot of things going on, just working around the house and stuff like that. So keeping myself busy, man, and just I feel what you said though. It's like it's like you're fasting almost when we miss it, because it's like it's therapeutic for us, obviously trying to put some information and words out there to help other people as well, but also therapeutic to be able to talk some of these concepts out and think of them a different way, right?
Yeah,
just kind of get challenged in ways we hadn't maybe thought about it originally when the word first comes up. So Yep. All right, well, people, today here, Let Your Words Count, where we review and evaluate the words that shape our lives. And today's word for episode 47 is the word discernment. Discernment. All right, Ethan, if you could pull up the definition for us. The definition for discernment is the ability to judge well, to perceive or recognize something with clarity and insight. Discernment is the ability to judge well, to perceive or recognize something with clarity and insight. And Ethan, if you want to jump to the etymology for us.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So the etymology, origin from Latin, discernere? I couldn't even say it. Discernere, meaning to separate, distinguish, or decide. Composed of dis, which means apart, plus cernere, to sift, perceive. Originally tied to separating truth from falsehood. That's important right there. Separating truth from falsehood. And as we always do, we're going to put the emotional lens so people can see as well. So from an emotional lens standpoint, the feeling, positive, negative, the positive side is wisdom of discernment. Wisdom, clarity, confidence, guidance. And the negative side is paralysis when overthinking.
Guilty.
Or, yes, me too. Or misjudgment if discernment is clouded.
Very good.
Why? Because discernment feels positive when it brings clarity, but can feel heavy when choices are complex or uncertain. It's interesting, ain't it?
That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Or when the results can be something pretty serious that can also, I think, add to the weight we feel of discernment and having to judge wisely, right?
Yeah.
You brothers have any initial thoughts on it as we jump into the word? What immediately hits you?
Well, I do have a question about, Ethan, what you just read, the negative side. Discernment being the misjudgment. Could you read that again?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to leave this up right here for the emotional lens. yes. So the negative side is paralysis when overthinking or misjudgment if discernment is clouded.
If discernment is clouded.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, isn't it?
Okay, because my understanding of discernment usually brings clarity, I would think. And so that's what I'm trying to work in how it will be clouded. Now, I can understand if in discerning the situation at hand, it's kind of like you have too many balls in the air. And so that from that, you don't know what decision to make. But you have discerned as far as separating. So I guess I was just trying to get a better understanding of how the cloudiness can come in. And I know it wasn't your definition, it's something you just read. Good. Maybe someone can help me out with that, maybe?
Go ahead, G.
I think it just means, because like when it talked about discernment being heavy, I think that sometimes we only have the capacity to hold so much, and I think sometimes when you're trying to weigh those factors, and again, it kind of talks about discernment as a separation or a sifting through, sometimes the data gets overwhelming, right? And I think that if there's too many things to try to figure out or try to, for lack of a better word, judge or discern between, I think that's when it gets clouded. I also understand how this could probably be, it can seem like a conflicting word to add on to discernment because of how we were looking at it in the church, and if it's, because we heard the term discerning by the Spirit of God. So in that regard, you wouldn't feel like there'd be any cloudiness. But I think in a very real sense of things, we have been put here with free will. We have decisions to make.
Okay.
And whether we feel led to those decisions or not, when we are processing through our brains what we think is the right or the wrong step to make, things aren't always clear. It's not always evident which way is going to yield the best outcome or the desired outcome for a situation. I know I felt that before, but again, just whether or not somebody is in the right mindset when that happens is to be discussed. But that's kind of what I think that that's what I pulled from it talking about cloudiness.
Okay. And I'm trying not to overthink it.
Sure.
But as we talk about this word, one of the things that came to my mind is sometimes a person doesn't know what they have.
Yes.
Okay. So if I see something for what it is, but I don't know how to interpret it yet. So when you bring in the word separating, so I've separated this, from that. I know it's not this. I know it's not that. But then I may not know what to do with what I have. Okay, that's starting to make a little bit more sense.
Very
to me
good.
now.
Yep. Love it.
Okay.
Yep.
That's it. When I was reading those, the information off the etymology and different things like that, and it was talking about distinguishing or something along the line about the truth versus falsehood, right? And it kind of goes to your question in my mind about, the clouded discernment, right? When you have a lot of information, there's a lot of factors in play that can cause us to create a form of paralysis in such a way where we don't know what route to going back to what you just said, G, about what decision or choice to make. The word uncertainty within that discernment that came up in my mind with the clouded discernment is the uncertainty. And I think that it came up in the definition too, right? It's the uncertainty. One of the thoughts that I had was slowing down is a very good tool and action that we should practice when discerning is a part of the process, so to speak, right? I really believe slowing down helps us with decision making. One of the thoughts was also brought up about not confusing discernment with judgmentalism, right? There's some differences in discernment and judgment in some type of way, right? I think in my mind, discernment comes with wisdom and patience and being able to choose slowly and thoughtfully. Judgment doesn't necessarily have that action 100% of the time. That's just Ethan Merriweather's thought process with that. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I was thinking about as you guys were talking about that. You guys have any thoughts on that?
I think that makes sense. I think that it's one of those things where like the words are related, but I think discernment adds a little bit extra on top of judgment, because judgment can just be you're making a decision.
Yep.
You could be judging without all the right data. You could be judging just because you're sitting up there in a courtroom with a robe on and you have to make a decision. It doesn't mean that judgment is wise. It doesn't mean that judgment has considered all the data. It doesn't mean that judgment has been done without bias. So judgment, I think, is just the simple act of making a decision. It doesn't necessarily entail wisdom. And I think that's what discernment tries to get to. It's a higher form of judgment. It's a judgment that's meant to be fair, considers all the different criteria, and tries to judge wisely or respond wisely. And you brought up another term that I think has an important part to play with discernment. And this is going to feel a little bit like deja vu because we talked about this with the respond word.
Yeah.
Right, that it's good to make a decision and be decisive and sometimes be quick about it, but we have to also be mindful that if take as much time as you can, but not more than what's necessary, because you can take so much time that ends up being a delay or you've thrown the timeline off to a degree, but you also don't want to rush into a decision or discernment or a judgment and make a mistake because you haven't considered all the factors. It's one of those things. Take as much time, like you said, go slow. Take as much time as you can, but also be mindful if there is some kind of time constraint there while you're making a decision as well.
Very good point, because I started thinking about the emotional side, right? Mm-hmm. So your decisions, is it based off of data or is it based off of emotions? That's another thing as well, right? Are you emotionally driven by this, or have you peeked behind the curtain? Mm-hmm. And if you looked at our image itself, our thumbnail for the podcast is a man actually holding a veil, and he's peeking behind the curtain, basically. And he's able to assess and see if it's before making, see, this is the powerful part about discernment to me before a choice is made, is because you are evaluating. And go back to the word that we were going to use today was examination. Examination. If you're able to grab that veil and you're able to peek behind that veil and you can examine what's behind that veil, and then you can make a conscious choice on what the next step would be. You know what I mean? Kind of slowing down a little bit and really taking all it in. You brought up a good point about leadership. A lot of times we put a lot of weight on political leaders, judge. I don't even talk about politics. I can't stand politics. But anyway, with leaders, you could talk about pastors, judges, and different things like that. A lot of times, do they have enough time with the information that they have to make a choice for a person, to get a death penalty? A person to go to jail for a very extended long time. Does he have, for extended amount of time? Does he have enough information? Right. And another thing is this, and I'm shut up, is the judge must have experience with the data as well. It's very important with discernment. There's an experience that is involved prior to choices being made as well. What do you guys think about that?
I'm a teacher. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And so we've been using these words, and I was thinking, because we use the word judgment as well. And I know that for the most part, when you're dealing with someone, when you're trying to give them knowledge, give them understanding, they're going to start with what they know, or they're going to start with what they're comfortable with.
Yes.
100%.
And so then when they start hearing the information, especially when it's new information, first they have to get over the hurdle of judging the new information based on their current level of understanding.
Very good.
To decide whether I agree or don't agree. So as a teacher, I know that this is going on. Okay, but I know that I have to go beyond that. Try to get them to get out of that comfort level, if you will, because you can't discern if you're in the judge mode. Because I know that a lot of things that I say, there's a lot of nuance in it. I know that a lot of things I say, I know of whether scripture or experiences that feed into the words that I'm saying. And so I'm trying to lead them down the path, but as a teacher, I'm not trying to just tell them.
Right.
I want them to see it for themselves.
Yes.
And so then that's where discernment would come in if they are, I'm going to use the word mature enough. Okay. And so that's why, so using your analogy with the courts and with the jury, for example, I don't know if I'm assuming all of us have at least been in a jury. You know, I actually sat through at least once. One other time I sat through the whole case, but then I got dismissed. But one time I actually went through the whole deliberating process. And it's disheartening because you see that people aren't discerning of the information. They've made up their mind, and it's not based on the facts that are presented. They're not necessarily evaluating and then separating this from that. And so when we try to bring discernment into it, and then to your point with the judge as well, because the judge now also, in hearing what the jury has to say, has to determine whether the jury deliberated with discernment. Okay, so it definitely is a powerful word. It definitely is.
I love it. I love it. So it's man, we brought up a few things to touch on there, because when we talk about like judging with emotion, like you mentioned, or you talked about like having like separating opinion from fact. That I think is a very important factor, and probably the hardest thing for some people to do, because we tend to think that our opinions are factual until they're challenged, or until we happen to see that it's broken down in some way. So having the ability to kind of step back, as you said, kind of slow down and step back and line up, okay, these are the things that I already believe or what my opinion is, and trying to be able to push that to the side to just look at the data. But then to the point that you mentioned also, and a judge, a seasoned judge, you mentioned maturity, what the experience of being a judge will bring to a person that's in that position is, and this is also a very important thing, because to me, again, judgment is taking all the information in that you can and trying to make the wisest decision with that data. An experienced judge is usually experienced enough to be able to realize where there's gaps or holes in the information, where there's things not seen or not being said, and will know to kind of push and try to get to those areas that are maybe not as obvious. You know what I mean? So having that ability to kind of see, okay, well, you know, I see this chain of events, but there's something missing right here. Something is broken. The story is not complete.
Very good.
And holding off on that decision or that discernment, that judgment rather, until you have all the information. And again, not being so led, well, I know this guy is guilty. It's not about whether you know he's guilty. It's about, does the chain of data and of evidence support that? And the wise judge will wait until all that information is available or has been explored before they finalize the decision. Right?
Excellent. Matter of fact, as you said that, it reminded me of the times that I was in court, and the judge had the ability to ask questions themselves.
Yep.
And what I saw them doing is asking questions that neither the defense or the prosecuting attorneys were asking, and they were doing it for the purpose of the jurors.
Absolutely.
That's very good. Excellent.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Yep.
Gee, you made a very good point. That's well done, man. Like, seriously, because that's going back to the emotional side. What it is, you removed emotions out of the equation and you ask the right questions. No. Let's take a step back. It's not asking the right questions yet. It's going back to what you said, is seeing something that's missing. By you identifying that something is missing, cause you to start asking the proper questions so it can unfold the veil, right?
Yes.
Peek behind the veil.
Right.
And I think that that's what discernment, that's why discernment is more powerful than judgment.
Yes.
You
Yes.
can't, you can if you want to, but but this is the reason why we wanted to use this word. We're going to do examination at first, but examination is kind of broad, right? You know what I mean? And we might do it. Actually, we're doing it right now. Actually,
Still
if you
kinda
think
feels
about it,
Yeah.
it's kind of underneath, right? So when you really think about discernment, and you're talking about the separating, right? And in the separation to identify falsehood.
Yes.
You know, that's powerful, man. Because the what judgment almost does like a mandate. This is what it is, and bam, right? No, but what discernment does, it doesn't matter who did what. It looks at process.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Discernment actually identifies what's missing. What we do is it's what's not considered.
Right.
That's the key, is identifying the thing that was not considered at the time. You know what I'm saying? Going back to like the jury, someone robbed a car. Yeah, we know all that. Someone got murdered. Yeah, we know all that, man. That's the output of an offense. Easy peasy, right? What led up to it?
Right.
That's the hard part, right?
Exactly
You know what I'm saying? So discernment, to me, the perfect thing is the word of God, man.
Right.
It's the intent of the heart, man. That when you start identifying, man, using the word of God properly, that thing is a powerful unit. You see what I'm saying? And I really believe and it's not, and when I say this, audience, it's not about telling someone they're going to hell and they're going to burn for the rest of their lives. It's not about that. That's not how you use the word of God for. The word of God is life.
And
Go
that's
ahead.
where I find the shortcoming of the church as a whole. Because the way we're talking about this, it requires focus. It requires maturity.
Agreed.
It requires a desire to understand. Okay?
Beautiful.
Now, weigh that against a culture where we've been told to hear and to obey. So then what's missing? Understanding. I don't even have to desire the information. Just tell me what to believe and I'll believe it. Okay? And unfortunately, that's the way we've been brought up. But what we're talking about here means, and see, going back to when I say being a teacher, one of the things that I don't want to use the word frustrating because I have to make sure I don't allow myself to get frustrated.
Understood.
But one thing is, potentially frustrated.
Gotcha.
Okay. See, I got it in there.
Yeah.
Potentially frustrating is when you know that there's so much in what's being said.
Yeah.
And you know that it's not for you to just tell them because you know it'll be over their head, so to speak. So you want them to come to the understanding. You want them to challenge you,
Yes.
not in the wrong spirit, but
Right.
you want them to challenge because then you will see that they're starting to think about it.
Yes.
And so then now you're trying to light that fire, trying to get them to think. And so then as you're presenting the information, then they're starting to put two and two together, and then they may challenge you on another level. Then I'm smiling because, they may think, oh, I got him on this, but yet I'm thinking, excellent, excellent,
right.
because now, everything is firing off in your head and you're thinking about this. And then that's where discernment comes in, because now that you care and you start to understand because you have a desire to understand. And so then now you're starting to weigh this. So you've done the separating. So, okay, he said this, but in this context it meant that. But the same word over here means something different. So now I have to understand why it was used here and then here and what makes them different. And now you have a conversation as far as I'm concerned. That's where you want people to get. And the end result of all of this is I discern. I have a discerning spirit because I'm slowing down, to your point. I'm caring about the information. I'm gathering and I'm making sure I understand it. And then discernment comes. Because, see, what follows discernment is action. Okay? So then now that I've properly discerned, now I can take action that is beneficial to self and others as well.
Beautiful.
And I love that because that's a segue to me into what I think the very next part of the discussion should be. You brought up the perfect point, right? Discernment, deciding, between potential outcomes will lead to an action, right? And this is where I think the one of the more important points about discernment comes in, is that I got to be careful because this is probably not how everybody looks at discernment, but this is, for me, one of the questions that I try to ask about anything when it comes to words, thoughts, or actions, is will those actions be beneficial or harmful?
Okay.
So whatever the data is that you're collecting to sift between, right? For me, usually what I'm trying to decide between is, will this be harmful or helpful? And as you're making that decision, for me, that becomes one of those criteria. We talked about wisdom, we talked about time. I think considering the potential harm by whatever actions may follow that decision also is a big part of it. That's one of the weights of discernment to me. It's just like that's one of the leading questions is, what's the outcome going to be? And we talk about this all the time, right? When you believe or you do a certain thing, how is it working out for you? You know what I mean? And evaluating, does this work? Are you getting the result that you expected from this decision or from this action? And if not, that tells you got to go back to the drawing board. That tells you have more work to do. You have more to learn, more to consider. But that, in my mind, is one of the chief things when it comes to discerning and trying to discern wisely is this decision going to lead to something harmful or helpful? Or even better yet, if you have a specific goal or end state in mind, you can, to be able to have the discernment to kind of, and some foresight to see, okay, this is where I want to be. And I'm at this crossroads. I can take either the left path or the right path. And the discerning person has to try to weigh all that evidence, all those details, all of the what's going to follow, and figure out, is the left path or the right path going to get me to what that stated location or that stated that desired goal, right? Exactly. So it's like, considering, does it help or harm, and is this going to get me to whatever goal I'm going after? Have to be some of the chief criteria, I think.
Now, one of the things you said, which I think is very important, is you mentioned the word timing.
Yes.
Okay. So with timing, it may not necessarily be a bad. Okay. What I mean by that is sometimes you've reached you've discerned properly, but what could be revealed, it's not the time, because it will not be received in the way that it can best. So then, therefore, it's not that it's wrong, but if you present it at this time, you've made a problem. You caused a problem.
Yep.
Okay. So then now we have to make sure. Because strange thing, I was thinking. And it's not just the automotive industry, but many industries do this as well, where they have inventions, innovation, and they have the ability to put this in the product, but they know that they may need to be able to pay for it. So you're not going to get what they already have right up front, right out the door.
Right.
You're going to get something lesser. And then they start opening up and giving more and more features. But they knew 10 years ago that they can do this right now.
Yep.
And so I think about that with respect to discernment.
Interesting. Wow.
It's there, but then now wisdom has to be applied as to when is the right time to do it.
Very good.
Love
Very
that.
good.
That's
Very
great
good.
insight.
That's some really, really good insight. I was thinking about and what is your intentions behind it too. And I was really thinking about, man, I don't really have nothing to say.
Well, if I could just jump back in real quick, because I was just thinking, because I mentioned, being a teacher, and I don't mean a public teacher in the public schools. That's not what I do. For anyone who's wondering, this is in the church, of course, as a calling. But someone asked me a question months ago, and I purposely didn't answer. And what I mean by that is, I understand that if I just give the answer, it goes. They say, okay, they heard the words, but there's no connection, there's no understanding behind it. So I just feed them a little bit, and then every now and then this person would mention to me that I didn't answer the question yet, you know. And of course, I don't want them to lose hope, so I started explaining to the person why I wasn't answering right away. But then I started dropping hints and then letting them know that I was dropping hints. What I was trying to do was get them to be invested in it themselves, because it's not just a matter of, oh, what's the answer to this? Then you give them the answer and they say, oh, okay, no, that's not the best way to do it, because I forget which way I was going this down this path. I'm sorry, I forgot why I was going down this path.
That's all right.
But that highlights one of the problems that we talked about, right? Is that if it's not that desire, if you're asking the question, and because I've been in that position of teaching before too, you want people to be asking the question because they genuinely want to know, and not just for the sake of knowing, but to apply it to something.
Right.
So you having a vested interest in your student learning, you want the student to have a vested interest also in learning and growing. So you want them to be asking so they can go and apply it. And this comes back to what we talked about before, this mentality of just, I'm going to give you the instructions and you just go do it. Don't think about it. Don't question it. Don't challenge it. Just go do what you're told. What is that person going to do when you're not there to guide them or to direct them?
100%.
So this is where I think, we talked about some of the scripture earlier. This is what I think master teachers do is no, I am not going to always be with you to tell you what to do. Right. So giving you the right mindset of how do I go through and judge these things, giving that mindset to you. So when you're faced with a situation, you don't have to say, okay, where is he? I got to go find him. You have it enough in you to say, okay, I know what the right decision is. I know what the end goal is. I know how to weigh whether or not this is going to help or harm. And it gives that, to convey that to that person, the ability to make the decision and not just the answers. That's what's key.
Man,
and so awesome. Then a person having a discerning spirit and operating in it, they are now an example to others as well.
Yes, they become self-sufficient. And that is the problem. That is the problem. Yep.
So that's awesome, man. You made me think about I done lost my train of thought, man.
It's getting contagious.
No, it was something that was said earlier about. Hey, hold on. Let me see. It was a thought here. Oh, about clarity. About it was in our definition, and in the definition, it spoke of. Here, let me bring it up real quick, y'all. Bear with me. Was it that, or was it? Okay, there you go. Positive wisdom, clarity, confidence. When you say that, when you were talking about not being able to give that person that information, right? Because they'll go right? Go right over their head, right? And that's wisdom, knowing that the timing is not now, right? And I was thinking about you having a confidence in that action. You see what I'm saying? And I think that that's valuable to know that. I look at it as a kind of, the parable when Jesus says in the field you come across a pearl, right? And I think that that's kind of what it is certain information, you see it valuable, and it's not that you want to harness it for yourself, but you know how valuable it is handing something over to someone that has no clue what this thing is, or trample right over it, right? You know what I'm saying? And I think that, and once again, it's a protection method as well. It's not only for the information, but for that person.
Right, because they will devalue something that's really very valuable.
Yes, absolutely.
You're just trying to lead them so that they can see the value that is there.
Absolutely. And that's a process of love too. Now, some people would think that, like, how come you didn't share? No, actually, no. Sometimes the process of love doesn't look like love all the time.
Gotcha.
But you know what I'm saying? But it actually is a process and a meaningful action of love, because not only because we were just talking about this earlier about words. No one has a monopoly over words, right? It's not like when words come out of our mouth, we don't own it. I own it, right? You know what I'm saying? Unless you copyright it like a name or something like whatever. But when you like with discernment, I look at it in this capacity. and the question that comes in my mind, I look at it in this capacity, and I look at it in this way, is why is this word not often used in our cultures and in society? And it seems like this word, from a biblical standpoint, is only used from a scripture standpoint, in my mind. But this is a daily activity.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Are you about to say something?
No, I'm disagreeing with you.
Yeah, this is a daily activity, and I think that we ignore and we don't acknowledge certain words like this is a building block for success. Like discernment is a building block for success and for people to mature in higher heights. Like you said, like about the teacher, it's very important where where we slow down and really consider, right, the thought process in order for someone to, man, you said it earlier about achieve a desired end. Is that what you said? I forgot what you said. How you a goal or a desire?
Like a desired goal or end state, something like that.
Yeah. It doesn't discernment do that?
Yes.
Yeah,
We use it to raise our children.
Yeah.
We use it to raise our children. And it's not some, we're trying to control them and make them do, but you use discernment because, and it's a fluid thing also. I see it that way because you know that as you are giving instruction, then they go outside of the home, whether it's to the school, whether it's to other family members, to the gym, wherever. And so you know that they are getting feedback and they're interacting, and then they're coming back home. And so then now you have to determine, with the knowledge that they've gained, and that's where communication comes in as well, you know. And so then you're still trying to guide them as to where you believe they need to go, because what you're trying to do is prepare them so that, to your point earlier, prepare them so when they are of age and of ability, they can make sound choices. They can go through the correct process, and it requires discipline and it requires focus. And then therefore it requires maturity. And we can actually instill that in our children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know vanity is in our children, but yet those things are possible. My kids, they tease me even today because they knew that if they're going to ask me something, they knew they had to get their ducks lined in a row, so to speak. They knew they just couldn't ask me for something and then I'd just say yes or no. I'm going to not necessarily grill them, but I'm going to ask them, well, why do you want that? Had you thought about this?
Right.
And so then and it's funny because the two of them, they would get together and they would coach each other and make sure you do something. I found this out after the fact,
Of course.
right?
Of course.
They would and make sure and then when they go, it's like they're prepared.
Right.
So what was I doing? I was teaching them how to discern, or in this case, to weigh this versus that.
Yes.
And then to decide whether it's worthwhile to come and ask me,
Yes.
Because I'm sure there were certain things they said, not so much that they couldn't get it by me, but they knew they couldn't reason through it enough to say it's justified. And so to me, that was a teaching moment as well.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yes, it is. Yep.
You about to say something, G?
No, I was just thinking about that. It's like it kind of brings me back into what we were talking about earlier too. It's like just now taking that thought process, right? Your expectation would be, or not even expectation, but your hope would be that now once they get out into the world by themselves, they're applying that same thought process.
Yes.
That same reasoning. Does this make sense? Is this going to be, is it going to have all those things lined up? The conversations I used to have with Dad, that's training now, that when they get out in the world and they're trying to make a decision, they can go through that same thought process, right? And be able to, again, discern and make the right decisions or ask the right questions.
Yes.
To reveal the right things. Because, and again, this comes back to, we don't want them just to be bots that are just, we don't want to train them to just be yes men, where as soon as they come into, under an authority figure, they're doing whatever they're told and not thinking through things, because that too, while I know that's a virtue in some circles and to some people, I think there's a lot of danger there, because when you relieve a human being of the accountability for their actions because they can point back to, well, I was told to do this and I was told not to question. That becomes a problem too. You know what I mean? Because now this person that goes and has done something that's wrong doesn't have to answer for it. I was following orders. I was doing what I was told. You know, you got to go talk to that person, and that person is beyond questioning. So having that mindset to challenge, to reason, to go through and figure out for yourself, okay, I was told to do this, but does this line up with who I am? Does this line up with the person that I want to be? And does this goal line up with what my goals are, so that they can make the decision that if it's not, they can walk away.
And then if someone is requiring or asking something of you, having the boldness to ask them questions, because that's part of your process to determine whether you're going to do what they're asking you to do.
That's right.
Because we know that many times people want to use peer pressure or to say, hey, well, just go along. Come on. You know, why you, but when you have the boldness to say, I'm going to ask you a question anyway, even though I know that you may not want to answer that question. But by asking the question, now the other person says, oh, okay, I really can't get over them because they're asking me the question that I don't want to answer.
That's right.
If it's a case where it's something that you shouldn't be doing.
Absolutely.
So that's why the process of teaching really is beneficial. And like I said, there's a boldness in saying, even though I know the person doesn't want me to ask the question, but I'm going to get the information anyway, because without going through my whole process, I'm sorry, I'm stuck, so to speak. And the answer is going to be no, because I don't have what I need to make a proper choice.
I love it.
That's awesome, man. That actually goes to one of the thoughts we were talking about earlier with false discernment. So if that person from and this is kind of another spin on it, but it's a case that we can think of a person having a false discernment or something, right? False. You can have false teachers, false across the board.
Reaching the wrong conclusion.
Reaching the wrong. There you go. I think that's a better way of saying it.
Okay.
But what does that do for that individual? That person gets something out of it. With false, anything false, you're going to get something out of it. It doesn't matter. Like and I look at it like this in this regard. If you can bear with me while I try to get this out of my brain, no matter what action you get something from it, whether it's good or bad or whatever. You know, it doesn't matter. You get a result. The result is always the result is what you get, basically. You know what I'm saying? When you talk about false discernment, that person is going to get their ego stroked, right, for a moment, but it's temporary. You see what I'm saying? Until the falsehood is recognized. You see what I'm saying? And so it goes back to what did you say earlier about false? What was the word you used instead? I forgot.
Reaching the wrong conclusion.
Yeah, reaching the wrong conclusions. So that now that person is going to have to stand on that wrong conclusion and strengthen that wrong conclusion. And why? Why? Because he's getting something out of it, right? And that's kind of like a different spin that I was kind of trying to aim at when you approach discernment unlawfully.
Okay.
That's kind of where I was getting to. Discernment as a powerful tool, and you use it treacherously, or you use it falsely, it can cause some damage.
Right, because you can ask leading questions to get to a conclusion that you already decided you want to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh wow. Oh wow. That's kind of, see, that's that manipulation, man. You know, that goes back to one of the words that we were saying about the but see, the person that's the reason why, man, see,
because it's like I've vetted the situation, and you tell everyone I've properly vetted, but you've only asked the questions that you wanted answered, and only answer questions that you know the answer to, and it's going to fit into your paradigm.
Perfect.
That's what lawyers do, right?
That's what lawyers do.
Perfect, man. That's exactly where I was trying to get to. You just said it a lot better. I was just thinking about auditing at a job. Everybody can't stand when audit comes up. You know, everybody flee, right? And I was thinking about most auditors do audit only the areas that they're comfortable with, right? And what auditors do, they come in and they get paid, you know. Concessions have been made and agreements been made just to, you know, it happens, right? You know what I'm saying? But when you talk about auditing something, you know, that audit is actually valuable for the company. You know what I'm saying? Not for the auditor company, but for the company that they're going to audit if they do it lawfully.
Yeah, do it like a 360, so to speak.
Yeah.
Make sure they look at everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not just certain areas.
I've been a part of that where it was known when this one guy would come in, we already know where he's going to go. He went to where he was when I was hired at a job. They knew the name of the auditor because they wouldn't switch after a couple of years. They would keep the same guy. And this one guy, all you had to do was take him to lunch, right? I know this have nothing to do with discernment, but for me, for the discernment, that's where discernment wins on my end when I meet somebody that I've heard about and I actually see the evidence behind it. Okay. You see that, and that's why I was talking about the experience that comes behind it. I've heard about it, right? I heard about it. It was a fact, but then the truth actually unfolded when I met him and I witnessed it for myself. So the information was there, but the experience. You got it right. The experience was everything, right? I was just like, wow, what they were saying was actually right about this guy, you know. And so when you talk about like discernment, man, that's why I really value discernment. I really do. And I really believe that we should utilize this as a tool daily, you know, within ourselves. And we were talking about introspectively, discerning introspectively as well, right? Because a lot of times you think that discernment is an external thing.
Excellent point.
Yeah, but
excellent.
Go ahead. You got to say.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing because I was agreeing with you because I actually thought about that as well. It goes both ways.
Yeah.
You know, oftentimes, as you just said, we look at discerning outside, but then we need to examine or discern our own. You know, and so that's why sometimes people would say, "Are you being honest with yourself?"
Yes.
You know, and that's why sometimes you need to talk it through with someone, and then they'll ask you the tough question: "Do you see yourself?" You know, and sometimes you don't want to see yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because if you see yourself, then you are either going to dogmatically stay on this, knowing that it's not the right course, or you're going to have to relent and say, okay, I have to go about this differently.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important point to acknowledge too, like that discernment is a skill you can nurture and that can grow. You can become better at discerning and not get locked into, okay, just this is just these are the facilities I had to work with. I can't take it any further.
Yes.
So realizing that discernment is something that can be practiced and grown, you know, it can be expanded, is an important tool too, because that way people can know, okay, if you've made bad decisions in the past, it doesn't mean you have to be bound by those decisions all the time.
Beautiful.
And I think an important aspect of discernment is reflecting on your past experiences, learning from past mistakes, right? And taking those things into account as you go into a new situation. But there's also a pitfall there, I think, too. And as we're, again, talking about discerning and making judgments, you have to be mindful of your past experiences, mindful of your past mistakes, mindful of your emotion as a result of those things you've been through. But then also make sure that you are not operating in a way to constrain yourself from what's out there in the future for you, right? Okay. Take into account, this is what happened in the past, but should I let that thing that happened in the past color my decision for this thing that I'm about to face right now? Okay. And again, every situation is going to call for something different, but I think as we're talking about discernment, it's the awareness. Be aware of what your past experiences have been. Take lessons from that in that awareness, but then also be able to rightly apply. Should I factor in what my past experience was with this last time? Should I factor that in before I go into this? And it could be the same situation you're coming across again. It could be a new thing. I know I've seen a lot of people that have struggled with, they might have prayed for something or wanted a certain thing to happen, and they come across that same situation a second or a third time, and they're not approaching that situation with confidence because like, well, I prayed for it that first time, it didn't happen, therefore It's not going to happen again. But again, discernment should force reflection on those past experiences, not just remembering them, because you might realize that I might have asked that first time with the wrong mindset.
Excellent.
I might have had a bad intention.
Excellent.
And maybe that's why that thing didn't materialize the way I wanted to. So again, mindful of the past, but not let your whole future be colored by it. You know, we got to judge and figure out where it fits, right?
That was really
This is
good.
a deep word, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It really is.
Yes, it is.
It's impactful. I think this word is very. It's full of the thing is with discernment. I get excited about the word. You know, now you know. You get excited about words, right? But when you because
You should. Go ahead,
because you
Gary.
do something with it. It's I can actually do something with discernment, and with being able to do something with discernment, you can see results from discernment, and that's what I love about this word. You know, and it's not, and it's not a static or sterile type of word. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's an action word,
Yes, it
man.
is. Yes, it is.
And it brings results. And the thing is, it's when I think about discernment, the discernment forces a person to choose well, because wisdom is tied to discernment. You know what I'm saying? That's like beautiful. So that's the reason why I'm saying like to your point, and I love that point. It's like you are a different version of yourself now, right? So now, in introspection, you identify that, man, my intentions was not right then. You know what I'm saying? But now that I've gained some knowledge, some information, and some pain,
Yep, healthy dose.
yeah, now we can do something with it. You know what I mean? So you know that's good stuff, man. Okay, I'm done. Go. Anybody else?
I'm good.
You about to say anything? Yeah, I think we done. I think we squeezed oil out of a coin, out of a penny on this one. Yeah, but
We did have one comment here.
oh, we did. Timing is key. So much to ponder in this discussion. Yeah, it's so much. It's so deep. But hey, if everyone that's listening, choose discernment, apply it to your life daily. Kind of meditate on when you didn't discern something and what was your outcome. What did it look like after not properly using discernment, or you didn't even know that discernment was a choice or it existed? Start thinking about that, and then now that you know about discernment, apply it and go ahead.
Yeah, and if I could just jump in along with that, don't do it by yourself. In other words, if you get someone that you are comfortable with,
Love it.
you know, ask them, interact with them, and find out.
Very
And
good.
so then it spreads, if you will. You know, and of course, it's best in a safe environment, so to speak, with someone who's going to give you an honest answer and not try to embarrass you, so on and so forth. But yeah, don't just do it by yourself. Understand that, because as you grow, you can help others grow, and vice versa.
That's a great point.
Love
Great
it.
point.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you close out, G?
I'm all set. I'm all set now.
Man, you got me closing out, man.
Yeah, man. I'm rusty, bro.
Yeah, I know. Everyone, hey, so glad that you guys were able to tune in. Please like, share, subscribe. Hopefully, we said some things that would increase you, enhance your mind, and bless you all. All right, we're signing off. God bless you, and talk to you next time.